Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. We are having a town hall on the street maintenance utility with the city of Copperas Cove. So if you're all in the right place for that, thank you for being here. Couple of things up front. We are recording this town hall. And so we're going to record it and then we're going to post it on to the city's YouTube channel. That way, anybody else who can't attend or anybody that you talk to that you would like to share the information with, you can point them to that video when it is posted. This is the City Council chambers. In this room is where City Council meets every first and third Tuesday of the month. The workshops generally begin at 5 p.m. And the regular meetings are where City Council actually takes action on things. City Council cannot take action during a workshop. It's really just discussion and providing some direction on how to move forward with certain things. But at 6 p.m. is when City Council meets to take action every first and third Tuesday of the month. If you've ever been interested in what City Council is doing and what they're talking about, come to the meetings. If you cannot come to the meetings, though, and you are still interested, I just talked about the city's YouTube channel. All of the city's city council meetings are on our YouTube channel. Now, that starts at a very specific point in time where they're on YouTube. If you want to look at any older videos of city council, it's actually on the city's website under city council videos. And it goes back, I don't know how long it goes back, but it goes back more than a decade for sure. A lot of videos out there of what City Council is doing, what discussions they have, who they are. So I encourage you, be involved. You've demonstrated that tonight by being here, and I appreciate that. And since we're talking about City Council, I do want to introduce the council members that are here. Many of them have attended several of our town hall meetings, but I'm going to start off on my left, your right. We have John Hell, who's back here. We have Del Treadway back here. And I'm scanning through. We have Christina Strophus right here. Did I miss anybody else, Scott? Did I miss any city council members? Raise your hand. No, almost. You can apply, sir, next year. So those are city council members that are here tonight. This is actually the 5th town hall that we've had. We've had 4 previous to this. We have 2 more after this, 1 more tomorrow, and it's a commercial town hall meeting, so it gets into a lot more detail on calculations. And then on Saturday at 10 a.m., we have our last town hall for the street maintenance utility. With City Council, I just talked about them, there is an election coming up in November. Please go vote. And if you're not registered, please register first and then go vote. I don't care who you vote for, but go vote. With city council members, our city council members that are supposed to be in the election are actually not in the election anymore. The city's election has been canceled for council members because all of the candidates that filed were unopposed. So after the timeline went by and the deadlines went by, City Council canceled the election, declared those that filed for office as elected to the office. So now we will have council members elected in November in those positions. But every November, there are city council positions up for election. If you are interested, because you really like what they're doing and you want to be a part of it, or you don't like what they're doing and you want to help change it and be a part of it, get involved. You're doing it right now. This is part of that involvement. But there are many opportunities in the city government for volunteer opportunities. Our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Board of Adjustments, the Quality of Life Committee, the Animal Services Advisory Committee, many opportunities. So I would just encourage you to be involved in the city, especially if you really are considering running for council, because that helps you start to understand a lot of what city government does, even in those very particular areas. So outside the doors and then to the right, if you go to the right, that's where our restrooms are. There's also water fountains out there should you need water if you haven't brought it. Want to introduce a couple of people that are here with me. We have Mr. Scott Osborne. Mr. Scott Osborne is our Director of Public Works, and he is the greatest technical expert when it comes to the street maintenance utility and the fee that we will be talking about tonight. So when we get to the Q&A, the question and answer session, he's going to join me up here because he and I kind of work really well together on being able to provide answers to your questions. We have a number of other staff members, and so if y'all don't mind, just raise your hand real quick that work for the city, and you can look around. We've got some back here. We've got some over here on the side, and they are all here to really support making sure that you get the information you need. So here's the plan. Oh, I need a clicker, Scott. Thank you, sir. See, we're going to see if this one works. All right, it works. Okay, so here's our agenda. I'm going to go through a presentation, and I'm going to go through a lot of information, a lot of data. You are going to have questions. Please either remember those questions or write them down, because after the presentation, Scott and I are going to be up here and we're going to answer all the questions that you have. And so I'm going to walk through this, and then we'll do that Q&A. And when we get to the Q&A, I just have a little bit of guidance so that we have an understanding. And because we are recording it, we have actually some special instructions tonight versus a number of our other town hall meetings that we've had. So we're going to walk through this. We're going to talk about our transportation network, which are the streets in Copperas Cove. That's the transportation network. Recent accomplishments, and then much more of what we need to do. We're going to look at what is called a pavement condition assessment. That is a very specific study of our road conditions. And then we'll look at the feasibility analysis. And then next steps, we're going to be talking about these town halls and the next actions that council will be taking. And then we'll get to that Q&A. So starting off, where have we been? And you can see up here in the past, in 2016, is when our voters went to the polls and approved moving 1/8 of the sales tax from the Economic Development Corporation to street maintenance. Then you can further see that in 2023, the voters approved again, moving another 1/8 cent from the Economic Development Corporation to street maintenance. So that means a total of 1/4 cent exists as funding for street maintenance activities, okay? Right now, that 1/4 cent generates about $1.3 million in funding. That $1.3 million goes to maintenance and operations of all the street maintenance efforts. In the past, including this fiscal year that we're in, we have had sufficient funding to do additional medium to major road work throughout the city. Medium to major road work means that we've put a whole new top on a whole road section. We have milled it up, which means we've kind of dug up some of the road and then we've put a new top on it. Sometimes we have to dig down further and remove the base, recompact the base, redo a new top on top of that road. So that's medium to large or greater effort of work. Next year, our fiscal year begins October 1. Next year, there's $0 available for that type of work. We will continue to do pothole patching, crack sealing, and by the way, if you are on RG3, Robert Griffin III Boulevard, in the next couple of days, please be careful with our crews. They're out there working in the street. Now there's cones, there's signage, but I was just informed that that's actually been very dangerous for them since they've been working on that road in particular. So just please be aware that those signs are out there, not only for your safety, but the workers' safety as well. But we'll continue to do that crack sealing. We'll also do vegetation treatments. So sometimes there's vegetation that grows up in the road and we remove it. And we also have to mow sections of the right-of-way that are on the right side or the left side of the roadways. There are certain areas where we have to mow that. And so we'll continue to do that work. But the major work to help improve our roads long-term, we're not going to be able to do that because next year, that part of the budget is zero. So what is our future? Do we just continue to do what we're doing, or do we look for a change? And so we presented this to City Council. And we have talked about our street condition and a street maintenance utility for several years. Initially, a street maintenance utility was initially discussed with City Council in 2012. Major effort started in 2021, and we're going to look at what all that major effort is since 2021. So let's look at a couple of the activities we have done, some of the successes we've done with our roadways. This is Bronx and Pinto Road. Back in earlier this year, we were able to resurface those roads. So we all like a smooth road, few bumps. You know, if it has a little bit of crack sealing on it, that's acceptable. But a rough road, we don't like. We try to avoid it, and we drive in a way to try and avoid those bumps. On the left side is Pecan Cove. The right side is Walker Boulevard. A portion of Walker Boulevard was repaved. Pecan Cove was actually a much more in-depth level of work. We completely removed that roadway, added some drainage improvements, because that's part of the reason why the roadway had gotten so bad, was it had poor drainage facilities. And then we repaved that road. Much nicer already. Freedom Lane on the left, also a portion of that roadway was repaved. And then on the right, this is a really good example of some of the patch type of work and improvements that we do on Klein Road, where you can see those darker areas where we dug in and removed portions of those roads and then put a new surface in that area, sealed it, and made sure that it was level with the other parts of the road. So this is what needs to be done still. And these are some examples of areas that really need some improvement. Bradford Oaks, it's more on the northwest part of town, but it is in an area that, quite honestly, few people go. And you can tell that just looking at the picture on the left, it almost looks like a dirt road. If you've never been on that road, it's actually paved when you can see it on the right side. And you can also see the number of patches that we've done, those darker areas where we've gone in and tried to do some patching. But that road is failed. And the only way to improve that road long term is to go in, dig it out, redo it from the base all the way up to the top of the road surface. And so that's the type of work that based on right now with our current budget, we'll never get to. But that's something we need to strive to try and improve. These are some other areas. Avenue B on the left side, you can see that there's quite a few bumps as road work has been done. It's kind of a hump right there. On the right side, we have Grimes Crossing. You can see we've tried to do some patchwork there also. Next, we have South First Street. South First Street picture is a great picture to really show where roads are starting to fail, and we're going to see it degrade very quickly. On the left side over here, you see many smaller cracks, and that is what is called alligator cracking. And we can do a lot of crack sealing there. We can spend a whole lot of time crack sealing, but it's not going to last very long because that road now has base failures. And we need to do some major work to bring that road up to a standard that our residents expect. On the right side, we have Sherwood, and you can see in that dark area where there's quite a bit of cracking, a lot of alligator cracking in that area also, something that we need to fix and try to improve. So now we've looked at some pictures, really kind of get an illustration. You drive on the roads every day, you know those conditions. We have 168 center line miles of roadway. That means if it was a straight line on the road, we had 168 miles throughout the entire city. When we did the pavement assessment, which was done in 2021, completed in 2022, we had 153 miles. So from 2021 to 2025, 4 years later, we've added 13 miles of roadway to our road network. We are a growing community. And as a growing community, we become responsible for more roadways that we have to maintain. So we've done all of that assessment on that 168 miles. We did that in 2021, completed in 2022, and here are the results. We completed it with a company called LAN Incorporated. They're an engineering firm. And we had an engineer come into town, boots on the ground, looking at every street, analyzing every street from a very technical standpoint. And from that standpoint, we came up with this entire roadway network. And on the far right, you can see where it says pavement condition grade. And it's just like in class. We start with an A and we go to an F. So A is excellent. 11% of our roadway in 2022 was in excellent condition. Almost 18% was in good condition, 16% in fair condition, 35, right around almost 36% in poor condition, and then almost 19% in failed condition. Let's keep going. There we go. This map really illustrates where all those road sections are based on that grade. So green means it's in excellent condition. And you can see some of the green areas. We have some green up here, green in here, green in here, over here, down here, and over here. All of those are in excellent condition. Remember, this is 2022. And then blue is the good condition. Gray, which is a little bit harder to see, but gray is in that fair condition. And then we start getting into the poor with yellow and red with failed. This map really illustrates the failed and the poor sections within our city. So let's look at the pie chart on the left. And this just really illustrates the percentage within each of those categories. But on the far left, we have failed and poor. That means about 50% of our roads in Copperas Cove are either in poor condition or in failed condition. The other 50% are excellent, good, and fair. On the right side, this is the cost to repair those roads in those conditions. And even in the excellent, you can see excellent still has a portion because we still have to do road work on excellent roads to try and keep it in an excellent condition as long as possible. But 75% of the cost to repair our roads are for the 50% of failed and poor roads. Why is that? It just costs more to dig out a road and put a whole new road in versus doing some seal coating or to do some crack sealing, that type of work. We can see here on the next screen what those costs are. And I'm gonna just help you focus on the right side over here. And that's the cost per square yard to do that level of maintenance on our roadways. And it starts at crack sealing. So there's a crack in the road. We come with a oil and type mixture to where we put that, fill that crack up so that it stays sealed. Why? Because we don't want water penetrating into the road, which is what really degrades our roads. Kind of in the middle, we have a thin overlay. That's at $5.41 a square yard. So again, it's almost 10 times the amount of crack sealing, but after you've crack sealed a number of roads, you still have to do a full overlay on that road. All the way down to a mill and overlay at 100% or a full reconstruction at $59 per square yard. In total, in 2022, to fix all of our roads up to an excellent condition immediately, it would have cost us $52 million. Now that is citywide. And that is not something that we can do, nor is that wise to do, because that means somewhere in the 10 to 20 years from now, we got to spend that much more, plus whatever inflation has occurred over that time period. And that gets very expensive. So $52 million in 2022 dollars. And that's important because we all buy stuff at the grocery store. We all pay for bills, and those bills are not the same as they were in 2022 as what we pay now. And they've all increased. So this is the goal that City Council set. In 2022, we were about a 60 PCI. So we were in that fair, at the very bottom of that fair category across the board with all of our streets. And City Council said, what's gonna happen if we don't do anything else? If we just keep doing what we're doing? And at that time, we had about $1.7 million because we had some money saved up from that quarter-cent sales tax because we weren't actually spending it on roadway maintenance. We had some of that saved up. We started doing roadway maintenance, and we started doing those larger projects. And if all we spent was that $1.7 million, you can see after 5 years, we would drop to about 51 PCI. So that gets into that poor category system-wide. City Council gave us a goal though. City Council said, let's try to get to a 70 PCI, not over 5 years, but over 10 years. So if we look at it just over a 5-year period, we would need roughly $4.6 million in funding annually to start doing roadway maintenance, including a lot of those medium and large type of maintenance projects. 23 million over 5 years, and then you can see in that chart that we go from about a 60 PCI up to 65 after 5 years, with a goal 5 more years later that we're about a 70, and then maintain our roadway network about a 70. So we talked about the fact that there's significant work that does need to be done. Right now, our PCI from 2022 to 2025 has dropped to a 58 average. So we're not at that 51, which means we've been doing some of those roadway improvements, but we haven't been doing $4.6 million worth of it. We've been doing about that 1.7 million. So we've slowed that decline in our score. So we're not at 51, we're at 58. And some of the examples we showed you in those pictures, those are good projects. And those roadways look much better, and they drive much better as well. So we talked with council, and we said back in 2022, we don't have enough funding to do $4.6 million. So what would you like us to do? And we presented them some options, and that option that we specifically went with was a street maintenance utility. And so that is a fee that now we're going to talk about that, because that's the reason we're all here, is the fee. We started a feasibility analysis in October of 2023. That analysis included identifying first, what is our network and what are all the customers that use that network. We looked at the transportation network in terms of the maintenance costs and how it should be allocated with all of those users, which are us residents and businesses here in town, and then really try to focus on a goal that is efficient and try to make it understandable. So let's look at that analysis, and I want to point out NewGen Strategies was the consultant that really did this analysis, very technical analysis that they helped us with and really helped us make it more understandable and efficient in terms of possibly trying to implement it. That methodology included first identifying the trip generation data. So I live in a single family house with my family, and my family on a daily basis, we generate an average of so many trips a day. And that's the information and the data that NewGen Strategies helped look into and identify. And they used a national manual that other engineers have put together on surveys across the country to help create that data. Then we, second, created simplified use categories. And the greatest simplification is there's residential as one major category, and there's non-residential as the other major category. Now, residential does have some other smaller categories within it, such as single-family residence, apartments, duplexes, quadplexes, all those types of different residential structures. And then non-residential, there's a whole lot of different categories, and really try to simplify a lot of those categories for non-residential. And we're not going to get into those tonight, but if you are interested in those, or you have a business and you haven't attended one of our town hall meetings for commercial, come tomorrow night. We're going to get into a lot more detail. Identifying where those parcels are for each of those different categories, assign the parcels to different categories, and then calculate total trips for each of those parcels. So in total, once that long analysis was done, you can see at the top up here, there were a total of almost 34,000 trips identified between residential and non-residential, broken into those different categories. And the number one up there is residential at almost 11,000, which is roughly about a third of all the total trips. All the rest of the trips are non-residential categories. We have a few in here with duplexes, townhomes, and then multifamily, but all the rest of those are non-residential trips. So once we got all of that data, we started applying the financial calculations to it. So let's start on the far left side. If City Council was to consider a fee of $2.73 per single family equivalent. Now, single family equivalent is a single family detached house, like many people live, but we also know that there's apartments and duplexes in town as well. So it's based on that SFE, single family equivalent. It would generate approximately $1 million in revenue. And that $2.73 then breaks down into non-residential based on their actual trip generation. We can talk about that here in just a moment. But on the right side, we have a larger table to where we broke it down for City Council. At $1 per SFE, it would generate roughly $366,000 after non-collection of certain accounts. And then drop it all the way down to $10 per SFE, would generate roughly around $3.6 million. Now, after we presented this to council, including the non-residential customers, City Council set some limits for non-residential. First, they said, let's consider, not adopt, not implement yet, a $10 SFE fee. So for most residential, it'd be about $10 per month. But based on that, for non-residential, let's put some caps in place. And the direction that council gave us was for the highest non-residential customers, the highest non-residential customer would pay approximately $12,000 a month. City Council said cap at about $2,500. So we put in a cap at $2,500. And then we calculated all the other non-residential fees after that. That doesn't mean that all of the other non-residential fees were reduced by that same percentage. And we've received lots of comments from non-residential customers that that's not fair, that's not appropriate, that's too much. And we're hearing you, and City Council has specifically heard those comments. Just a quick comparison on the residential side. Non-residential is much more complicated also, but on the residential side, there are other cities that have a transportation or street maintenance type fee implemented. Austin at the very top, $17, almost $18. But then below that, we have Bryan, Waco, Sulphur Springs, Killeen, our next door neighbor. They're at $10 a month for non-resident or for residential. Lampasas to our west has a street maintenance fee, $7, and it has been implemented for many years. It's been out there for many years. But these are all the fees in comparison to what we have. And then after we presented all this information to council, City Council said, well, let's create some structure and how we're going to approach this now that we know this information and now that we've received this information. One, quarter-cent sales tax is not sufficient to continue trying to improve or even maintain our street network at the 60 PCI, and I already showed you it's already dropped now to a 58 PCI. The transportation utility fees, or a street maintenance utility fee, has been a source of revenue that other cities have shown can generate the revenue needed to improve our streets. And then lastly, the methodology that we've developed. One, it's understandable, I hope it's understandable. And we're about to find out if it is in the Q&A, but also that it's equitable. And specifically on the non-residential side, we've heard it's not equitable. And so when we talk with City Council in October, we're going to share that with them, and then we're going to share some alternatives to try and make it equitable. We have been doing outreach. As I said, this is the 5th town hall meeting that we've had. We've had 4 prior to this. We have 2 more the rest of this week. And we've been meeting with a number of organizations, such as civic groups and other clubs that come together. They've asked us to come and talk about the street maintenance utility program, and we've shared a lot of that information. If you did not receive a flyer, just raise your hand and we'll have somebody bring you a flyer. But on that flyer, on the bottom right side of that flyer is a QR code. If you scan that QR code with your electronic device, it will take you to the city's website for the street maintenance utility program. If you don't want to scan that QR code, I understand. Just go to the city's website, search street maintenance, and it will take you to the website then. This presentation, with the non-residential presentation, with the street condition assessment, the feasibility study for the program and the fee, and the draft ordinance to actually consider, City Council to consider adopting this program and the fees, are all on that website. You can search all of it. You can read all of it. You can print it all, whatever you want to do with it. It's all out there. If you find the flyer online, that QR code is also clickable and it'll take you to that website as well. So we do have 2 more meetings. Then in October 7th, is the first City Council meeting after our town halls end, and we will be presenting a summary of all the comments we've received, some of the recommendations we've received through these town halls to council. And then council will provide us, staff, direction on what they want to do, what they want to change. Do they even want to do this program at all? I mean, the whole range is possible. We may have a program, we may not have a program. If we have a program, it could look very different from what we've presented. And I don't know what that is, but here's what I can tell you, is through these town halls, our residents and our business owners have spoken. And at our last town hall, which was 2 Mondays ago, City Council, no, 1 Monday ago, 2 Mondays ago, sorry, time is getting by me. We had almost the entire council here, except for 2 people. And I have already received comments from council that they want to consider changes to what we've already proposed. And so that is coming. Those changes could include not even doing the program at all. That's on October 7th, and that'll be in a workshop so that we can get council's direction. The plan, if City Council says continue, is on October 21st, which is the following regular council meeting. City Council will have the opportunity to consider adopting the ordinance for the street maintenance utility. So, you know, October 7th is when we'll present the results of the town halls, a summary of the town hall discussions and comments, questions, recommendations. Council will give staff direction on what they want to do with the program. Then on our plan right now is October 21st. We would then draft and present an ordinance for City Council's consideration. If City Council says move forward on October 7th and we draft it on October 1st, and City Council adopted it on October 1st, whatever that program looked like, the intent and plan would be to implement the program on January of 2026. And that means for the fees, that's when our utility bill would begin showing those fees, beginning with those future utility cycles in January 2026. After that, again, this is all us trying to plan out in the future. If that is implemented, if that is started, by June of 2026, our plan is to have designed or start design and bidding of major and medium roadway projects. So those mill and overlay projects, those other major projects such as a slurry seal on top of the roadways to seal it again, that's when we would start doing that work. I have received many questions about, is this going to be mingled with the general fund? General fund includes public safety, police, fire, parks, animal control, code compliance, administration. And the answer to that is no. One of the things that cities do is we do what is called fund accounting, which means only those funds for those particular programs go into a fund and can be only used for the purposes in which those funds are dedicated. Street maintenance would go into a street maintenance fund and can be only used for street maintenance activities. Can't be used for police and fire and parks and rec and library or anything like that. We have also received a couple of comments that we have not been very transparent. We've hidden this, and we're trying to adopt it without sharing. The fact that you are here shows that that's not true. This has not been adopted by council because your city council wants to know your opinions, your questions, and your recommendations. In the past, town halls have been very productive in receiving those comments and those questions, and even the recommendations. So with that being said, we are going to go into our Q&A session. I did say we are recording this, and so we're going to post it. So we have a microphone over here, and Anna, are you gonna man it? Oh, no. Councilmember John Hell is going to man it. So if you have a question, all I ask is that you raise your hand. We will call on you. John, it may take a couple of seconds. John will bring you the microphone. Ask the question in the microphone, and I may ask you to move it closer so that we can record it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Anna, for getting the microphone. So we can record it. Ask your question. Let us respond. If it's a multi-part question, we'll try to respond to each of those parts. But I will say that all of our town halls, as emotional as this whole program has been and has generated emotions, all of our town halls have been very civil, and I would just ask that we consider that as we are going through the Q&A session. Scott, is there anything you wanted to say and add before we get to that?
I think you really touched on everything. I appreciate you all coming in. Once again, I'm Scott Osborne, Public Works Director. In the city of Cove, I am basically over, obviously, the streets. I'm also over drainage, the water, the wastewater treatment, utility administration, fleet, etc. So if you have a question relating to city operations, I have a broad range of what I deal with, so feel free to reach out. I'm not hard to get a hold of. I think I've spoke with many of you in here. We're always open to those calls, and really we're here to serve the city based on what they need. So with that, we'll go into the Q&A. Ryan and I will do our dead level best to address your questions. In the event we don't have an answer now, I assure you we will get you an answer over the next couple days, but we've heard a lot of questions over the last 4 town halls, so hopefully we're prepared for that. Again, if you don't think of your question tonight, 2 more opportunities, 2 more town halls. Ryan and I will be there as well, so feel free to come back and ask us your question.
Very good. Thank you, Scott. Okay. Q&A. Who has a question? Just raise your hand. All right. Yes, ma'am. So he's bringing the microphone to you.
My question is, why have not street repairs been budgeted?
Why have street repairs not been budgeted? So street repairs are budgeted to an extent. So I talked about the pothole patching. So that's a street repair. That's been done. Seal coating has been done. But let's go back in history a little bit, okay? So back in 2014 was the last time City Council, before the sales tax, last time City Council allocated funding towards some of those medium and large type of maintenance projects. That's also one of the reasons why the ballot was taken to the voters in 2016 to move 1/8 of a cent to street maintenance to help fund that. The other 1/4 cent was then done so that we could continue that work. And that work didn't really begin in earnest until about 2019, 2020? 2019. So, yeah, so from 2017 is when we started collecting that eighth cent tax for street maintenance. Until about 2019, we built up funding. And we've been using that savings or built up funding all the way through until this year, which is when we used the remainder of that. City Council does not have the ability, based on state law, to increase the property tax rate, because that's a question, is, well, why don't we just pay for it out of property taxes? They don't have the ability to increase property taxes a significant amount without voter approval. And if you are a voter and you were here last year and you voted, you know that there was a proposition on the ballot last year to actually increase our tax rate to provide funding for police and fire salaries. And that passed. But state law has constricted or restricted the cities, any city, from raising it up too much without an election. Well, 100% of our property tax that we receive in our general fund goes all to public safety, police and fire. There are a couple of other departments that are part of public safety, but let's just talk about police and fire. 100% of property tax in the general fund goes to public safety, but it doesn't cover 100% of those budgets for either police and fire. So then we have sales tax. We all pay sales tax when we go buy things. Well, that sales tax helps fund the rest of public safety, but then it funds those other general fund departments: Parks and Recreation, Library, Animal Control, Administration. And then there's other funding sources, and I have children that are in the Parks program. I pay a fee so that my child can play sports. But it doesn't cover the full cost of playing sports either. So even taxes are helping to cover some of those things.
Can I ask another question?
You got the microphone.
Good.
Go for it.
I'm not going to give it up for a moment. I am concerned with when we have contractors come in and do the work on the road, put holes, run their cable, whatever, and putting the new poles in.
Can you hold the
leaving
microphone up to your mouth?
Leaving the piles of dirt. Do we have it in our contracts with these people to leave it the way that in better condition than what they found it?
Yes, ma'am. So let me address our contracts first. I'm going to let Scott talk about that in greater detail, but all of our contracts include contractor responsibilities. And we outline what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it and when they're supposed to do it. But your other part of the question is more about Metronet and Brightspeed. We'll just call them out, okay?
Exactly.
We'll just call them out. They are not city contractors.
Right.
We have not asked them to come here. We have not encouraged them to come here. But here's what we can do. State law has given them the right to do that work, okay? What we do is we do meet with them to know first where they're working, because guess what? We all didn't have water last year because they hit a water main. and that was their fault. But we're very strict about them providing us that information. But in terms of cleaning up, well, let's talk about the roadways first. You know, if they're doing digging in the roadway, we have crews, and Scott's responsible for those crews to make sure that they fix and correct all the problems that happen within that roadway. Leaving piles of dirt and stuff like that, if it's there too long, we coordinate with them, between them and the property owner. And so really it is the responsibility of the property owner to communicate with them, but we will help that communication. And there we have specific contacts with both of those companies that you as a property owner and a resident can actually call them directly and say, you didn't fix my yard, and it's not fixed to my liking or my standard. And they have, especially through the ones that we've been involved in, they'll come back and they'll fix it. It may take a little bit longer. It may take much longer than we want to accept it, but they've done it. And if you've got a problem with that and it hasn't been solved, you can contact the city and we will make that contact and put them back in touch with you to address that. But contractor responsibility, Scott?
I think Ryan stated it on the front end. With all of our public works projects, we utilize standard contracts and standard contract terms. One of the terms is if you disturb private property, you return that to like or better condition prior to us actually accepting that project. So we manage that, but again, the bigger issue you're talking about is really people that are outside of the city's direct contractual influence.
Well, then, this is a contract of the state?
They do not have contracts with us or the state. They are private companies. They have basically Metronet, the big company Metronet, I believe it's T-Mobile now, hires a bunch of subcontractors. The subcontractors work for Metronet, not the city, not the state. So they are basically a private utility out there that has the right to occupy our right-of-way and really barrel through our right-of-way to provide fiber to all, right? And that's basically what they're trying to do. That being said, I'll be the first to admit I share your frustration. We have experienced significant damage, not only to the roadways, but to the water system, to the wastewater collection system. But I assure you, we are holding each one of these companies accountable for every bit of damage that is done. We quantify and we send them invoices, and we do collect those invoices. And it's been over hundreds of thousands of dollars since this started. That being said, our hope is they'll be done within the next 6 to 8 months, and they'll be gone, except for the fine service I'm sure they're going to provide for fiber.
The other part is, I don't know if you all realize this, but where your home is located, where mine is, there's a pole to the left and there's a pole to the right. I have no wires, though, going across behind my house. They tried, but it didn't work. You can go underground across my property in the, what do you call it? Easement. But that's it. You can't go up above something that never was there. Okay, I'm done.
All right.
Hi. I want to know why you waited so long to address this issue of the roads when you knew we didn't have enough money way back in 2016. And why we did not do another sales tax on gas, fuel. Why didn't we go up another more when you knew there wasn't enough money?
Very good question. So let's hit the first question first. Why wasn't this done sooner? It wasn't done sooner because no action had been taken sooner. Like I said, this program, the idea of a transportation user or street maintenance utility fee, was discussed initially in 2012. So it's 13 years later. We finally have enough data, information, studies for city council to say, okay, now we have something that we can present to our residents and our businesses, and let's move forward with this so that we can start gaining input. Why it wasn't done before that? Our governing body adopts all of our budgets. Through the adoption of those budgets have services tied to them. And so through the adoption of those budgets, the street maintenance work was not included in the budget. Now, I've lived here for 14 years, and I can say in 14 years, I have not made a big fuss. I haven't recommended in 14 years that, hey, I really want our streets to get better and improve, except for the fact that we've been working on this program and we've been trying to develop this information. So it's been recognized. We just didn't have enough information to actually propose this program yet. So for 14 years, I've lived here, and I've enjoyed the benefit of not having to pay yet. How far back does this go? It goes back decades. I mean, quite honestly, it does, because our roads have been here for multiple decades. I mean, it goes back a long time, and our streets have continued to slowly degrade over that very long time. And here we are today. We recognize, and City Council recognizes, we need to do something. And that's now. And so, yeah, I can look back and we can point at all the people that didn't do this and didn't do that, didn't recommend this, didn't take this action and improve it. But we're here today and we recognize it and we're trying to do something. And that's something, we live here, we're driving the streets that were provided and have been maintained for the generations before us. And I want to make sure that our city has streets for the generations after us also. And I think, well, Scott definitely recognized that, and I think our city council recognizes that also. And that's why this has been brought forward.
Okay, I got another question that I was told to ask.
From a friend?
Yeah, they're not here. They don't drive. They don't drive, and they're on a fixed income, and they want to know if this is going to fall on them too, or are they going to get an exemption?
Right, and currently, the current draft ordinance does not provide any type of exemptions. That being said, it has not been adopted by City Council. A couple communities, you saw that list of the other fees out there, the other communities. I believe one or two of those communities actually provide an exemption for those who don't own cars. From my perspective, although a person may not have a car and physically drive on the city's network, thereby putting impact on that, they have trips come to them for deliveries, for the mail, for services. The impact is still there regardless of your own personal vehicle. So my recommendation based on that thought process is I don't believe that's a warranted exemption. That being said, there's other exemptions out there, and I believe based on our town halls, that topic will come up again on October 7th with City Council. One discussion point was, what about Coppers Cove Independent School District? The district actually is the most impactful entity, obviously, because of the buses, because of the trips with the parents, because of the teachers and the deliveries. In essence, Coppers Cove generates about 2,000% more than one single family resident in this analysis. That being said, with a straight calculation for Coppers Cove ISD, you're looking at about $20,000 a month. Okay, that's an insurmountable amount of money. What that means to Coppers Cove ISD, that's 3 or 4 teachers a year that they can't fund. So, and potentially, or in reality, where does Coppers Cove ISD get their funding from? Us, as taxpayers, as ad valorem taxpayers, right? So, in essence, a fee on them is another fee on us. So that's a potential exemption that may be considered by City Council, among other exemptions. We've had discussions from nonprofit organizations. What about, every dollar that's assessed to a fee is less we can do for needy members in our community. What this means, one example came up. What this means is I have $900 less on a yearly basis to help a veteran, right? Mm-hmm. Just for example, I could see that exemption discussion coming up too. And I talk a lot because I was an attorney in a former life, so I could go on all night. That being said, I think I addressed your question. I just said it in a lot of words.
You did, thank you.
All right, other questions? We have a question back here. Oh, don't trip, John.
Nope.
All right, first, I want to say thank you, guys. Obviously, this is a lot of work. You put a lot of work into it. You're doing it very respectfully, and thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, the roads, something needs to be shored up, right? Not sure that the full 3 million seems like it's needed. I don't know that we need to go to an excellent condition. Maybe the actual shortfall could be reassessed. But my question is kind of related to Supreme Court, Texas Supreme Court, and even a lot of the Texas attorneys generals coming out against municipalities implementing a tax hidden as a fee. And we know that it happens, but it goes against the intention of using it, like you said, the equity, right? The equitable use of it. Taxes are supposed to be paid at the pumps, and I know Texas needs a little bit of change there, right? Sales tax, if you increase to 0.5 cents, that shores up everything. And there's other broad-based initiatives that are specific to road usage. But I guess, kind of like what it's been said, I've got a neighbor who has kidney disease. He doesn't leave the house, and he's going to be paying more than the Amazon driver in a big truck pounding the pavement. So how are we respecting the established precedents of how roads are supposed to be paid through democratically established elections through a proper tax rather than hidden as a fee?
Okay, very good question. So there's several components in there, and so I'm going to try to break those down. I may have to ask you about something else you may have said as I'm going through this. So property taxes. Let's talk about that first. Well, your first thing is the legality of whether a street maintenance utility fee is even legal or if it's a hidden tax, as you put it. It's not a hidden tax. A fee is for a specific use. A tax is for general use. And those are broad definitions and very summarized. And so this is a fee that is specific to the maintenance and improvement of roadways. And so we can talk very specifically about one that we, as customers, we are already paying, which is a drainage fee. And I know that brings up historical emotions as well. But that drainage fee is only used to maintain our drainage facilities that the city is responsible for and to improve those facilities over time. And so the street maintenance fee would be very similar. And as we looked at the other cities that are already doing this, they've already gone through that defensive process of making sure that it does comply with state laws. So let's talk about property tax first. Why not, and you already asked, we talked earlier about, why don't we just increase the property tax for it? Well, I'm going to hit on property tax first, okay? But property tax is something that generally, historically, for many cities, for a very long time, has been used to maintain roadways. And that's where our roadway maintenance for many decades was funded through. In 2009, a state law was passed, and if you lived here, and you voted, you probably went to the polls, and based on the majority that passed it, probably approved an exemption that has since expanded, and that is the 100% disabled veterans exemption. Coppers Cove is more impacted, has more impact than most cities in Texas. Why? Because we do live next to Fort Hood. Now, that exemption for those 100% disabled veterans, well deserved. They've given their life to defend our country, my freedom, your freedom. But the impact that it's had on Coppers Cove is that 20% of our property tax is exempt from paying taxes. That's a $3 million plus impact to the city. Next year, it'll be much higher than $3 million. Now, the city does get a reimbursement from the state. But if we lose $3 million and we only get $250,000 back from the state, it's not much of a reimbursement. So remember what I said about public safety? 100% of property tax in the general fund goes to public safety and doesn't cover 100% of public safety. We are funding services in the city, 100% of services on 80% of revenue. Just think about that. Sales tax. Why don't we just add another half cent to the sales tax, right? Was the question. By state law, we are prohibited from increasing our sales tax any more than what it currently is. The total sales tax for Coppers Cove is 8.25%. 8.25% is the statutory limit, with an exception of very few additional expansions of that 8.25%, which does not include street maintenance. But the city receives 1 cent for general government services. We receive a 1/4 cent for the Economic Development Corporation and a 1/4 cent for street maintenance. Another half cent goes to Coryell County. And so we can't increase our sales tax anymore. You'd mentioned gas tax. Gas tax, that's, that makes sense. I drive a car. If I'm driving a car and I pay tax at the pump, it should be used to maintain our streets. The city of Coppers Cove gets no gas tax except through federal and state grants to help improve or expand our roadway network that are state roadway connected roads. So the bypass, US 190, that's where we got some of that funding. State Highway 9, that's where we got some of that funding. The interchange or the turnaround now from State Highway 9 onto Business 190, that's some of that funding as well. But we can't get any of that money back. I was asked, well, why don't we just add a portion onto that sales tax or the gas tax, and then we get that directly? We don't have the statutory authority to do that. And in my search, there are states that do allow municipalities and counties to do that. Texas is not one of those states that allows municipalities and counties to influence or change the gas tax for our use. Did I cover all your questions? Okay, very good, very good. And thank you for the questions. We got a gentleman up here.
Yeah, I noticed you had your chart up there and all these towns that are already charging a fee, but we're probably one of the highest utilities in the area. We pay more than the Killeen. We probably pay more than Austin on a monthly basis for our water and sewer and all the rest of that. If you're going to charge us more, I'm afraid that if we start doing that, we're going to charge Coppers Cove right out of existence, because people are not going to want to come here. Businesses are not going to want to come here because they got to pay to be here. people are gonna stop wanting to come here because they're gonna have to pay more to be here. It's just not making any sense to me. Plus, I live out here, and I'm seeing houses go up every time I turn around. You know, I can't even get out of my housing area anymore because of the traffic. Where's all that tax money going? I know most of them people aren't 100% disabled. So, you know, why are we still losing so much money?
Good questions. So I'll touch on the last part first. I said 20% of our revenue is exempted in property tax. Based on the recent calculations that finally came out of the certified values, we're actually at 24%. So the number of 100% disabled veterans in town is increasing. Not all of them, though. Like you said, not all of them. In terms of our fees, utility fees, it only pays for the service that we need and provide, and for the capital projects that have to be done. We live further away from our water source than the city of Killeen. We also, from our topography, which means the hills, we have way more hills than Killeen does. We actually have more water tanks, more wastewater treatment facilities than Killeen does because of all the hills that we have. So you want to add anything to that, Scott?
No, well, I do, of course. Start off with no. The statements that Ryan has are absolutely factual. What I would encourage y'all to do is take a look at the city's capital improvement plan. Every year, the city council and city staff go through what is necessary in terms of what do these assets need. Similar to street maintenance, the street condition that we have out there, when I came on back in 2019 in this role, we had, as a city, a substantial backload in terms of absolutely critical capital improvement projects that needed to be completed in our system. Examples of this, probably the clearest example, we have 3 wastewater treatment plants in the city. We have one south of the bypass, we have one off FM 116, we also have one over off Tank Destroyer called the Northeast. Those treatment plants have been in place for some about 40 or 50 years with very minor actual updates being completed over that time. So they were very well maintained from what I can tell. But with all mechanical parts, engines, etc., they don't move forever. They don't last forever. Technology gets obsolete. So when you flash forward and you defer that maintenance, which is exactly what has occurred on our street network, when you defer that maintenance, you find yourself in a position where you need to sink an exorbitant amount to actually get those systems back up to where they need to be so you can effectively maintain them going forward and still provide those critical services. So I say all that to say there is a substantial amount of need in terms of all of our services and assets. Every city is not created equal. There are distinctions in topography. There's distinctions in how far we are, how much it costs us compared to the city of Killeen or Lampasas for that matter. All of that information is provided in the city's budget. And that's on a yearly basis. So the information's out there. If you have a specific question relating to one of our utilities, feel free to reach out to me. And we can have a discussion about why it is what it is. So with that, hopefully I addressed your, I don't think I did, but feel free to give me a call.
The reason why I say that is I live in my house with my dog.
Yes, sir.
I had a $300 water bill last month, and I only water my front yard. Mm-hmm. Come on now. I only water 3 days a week. I run it for about an hour and 20 minutes, all 4 areas.
Do you have a leak?
$300. No pool. Mm-hmm. Well, I take a bath every other day because I don't get dirty because I don't do nothing. how did I, and no, this one here is a little bit better because things have changed, but it was a $200 water bill again this month.
And
It's
you're-
just kind of weird that with as little as I actually use water, at least in my opinion or my idea, I'm getting stuck with an enormous, a big water bill. And I just don't understand how I can be, I don't have a backyard that I water. I just water my front yard. How does it get to be so much?
And to specifically address your specific question, what I'd ask you to do, Millie McBride, she is our utility administration manager, so she's over the department that generates your bill, has the line item per line item. Our utility bills obviously have the water, the wastewater collection, the solid waste, and the drainage. So it's made up of currently 4 components. But if you have a question on your actual water usage, Millie can actually bring you to the data that shows on an hourly basis how much your residence is using, maybe to dig into it deeper. So, Millie, raise your hand back there. That's Millie McBride.
She's awesome.
She'll help you.
Other
Yes, sir.
questions? Got one right? Oh, right here. Thank you, John.
Hi, I sent the slides to my friend, so she came up with this question. I don't know if it's really happening or if it has when the last time, but she says that if we don't have money to fix our streets, why do we keep annexing areas that will require more needed street maintenance? So are we annexing areas that need street maintenance or not up to par at excellent right now, or have we, and when the last time?
Yeah, so
is-
there are areas that are annexed, and so just a little bit about annexation law. One, based on the way state law has changed, it is virtually impossible to involuntarily annex any area outside of the city now. And the reason I say that is if the city wants to consider annexing an area without somebody saying, hey, I want to be in the city, they actually get to vote on it. Those people that live there, they get to vote on whether they want to be in the city to receive city services and pay city taxes, quite honestly. And so we have not involuntarily annexed for at least a decade and a half, if not more than that. But there are areas that are voluntarily annexed into the city, and those areas do have new roads constructed within them. And so, yes, that's where those new roads have come, is because many of those areas were annexed. There are other areas that were already in the city where developers are building new homes and building new streets. And so it's a mix between both of them. There's an area on the southeast side of town, it was already in the city limits, and there's new roads built. But there's areas on the far north side of town that were not in the city limits, and it was annexed, and those roads have been built also. And so the question is, well, why are we going to do this? Continue to annex areas, but not have enough money to do the road maintenance. Well, if those areas aren't annexed, then the developer will decide whether they're going to build or not. And if it's outside of the city limits, quite honestly, the profit to a developer is substantially lower because they have to put the homes further apart based on county rules. If they're in the city limits, they can put those homes closer together because we provide municipal services. And while those areas, yes, they pay property taxes, they pay utility bills and all that, very bluntly, if I can say that, residential properties do not cover the services that they pay themselves without increasing taxes higher. And that's why up until this last year, when Killeen adopted their property tax and our city council adopted our property tax, we've been the highest property tax rate in the entire region. Killeen's the highest now, just throwing it out there. They're a little bit higher than us right now. But Yeah, city council could say, no, we're not going to annex any other properties. And we have a current development that is occurring that a developer wants to annex into the city, bring 1,200 new homes, 1,200 new homes into the city. We have been working on this for over 3 years, because city council has given us direction that, hey, if they want to annex into the city, they need to provide better neighborhoods. They need to provide better amenities. They need to provide the appropriate road widths for those neighborhoods. And that's why we haven't annexed property in, oh my gosh, it's been 3 years, I think. We haven't annexed any other properties in at least 3 years. I think the last one was Clayton Ranch, a portion of Clayton Ranch, which is on the far west side of town.
Okay, so we haven't done it for 3 years, and we're not gonna do it unless they have the roads up to par now in the
Okay,
future?
so
Or that's what I wanna know.
Anytime a developer puts in a road, they have to build it to the city standards. So it has to be up to par, as you said, has to be that way. But
Up
as
to
soon as
par
that road is,
meaning what?
as soon as that road is built, we have to consider starting doing maintenance on it. Otherwise, it's
Well,
going to
regular maintenance,
degrade.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, but it's still like up to what, excellent
Excellent.
road
Yes, ma'am.
standard? Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Let's go up here. Oh, John was going to hand it off. Well, go, John. You got the mic. Thank you, sir.
I just have one question. If they do, say, $10 a month, is it $10 a month for every single family home? Or does it depend upon the number of drivers you have, the number of cars you have?
It's $10 for every single family resident, which is a single house. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Was there a follow-up question?
I said resident, and she said, we wanted to clarify it's house. So my house is $10, no matter how many people live in my house, and her house is $10, no matter how many drivers are in it.
So it's
Yeah,
per
so-
water bill.
Yeah, so the question is it based on a house? And it is based on a house. There are different residential categories, such as a duplex, which is basically two houses attached to each other. Apartments is another residential category. And those have a different, slightly less rate for those, because based on this national study of surveys all across the United States, those types of residential structures typically, on average, have fewer trips. Yep. Okay, let's go up here.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
All the cities I noticed in Texas, roughly all of them, are increasing, adding taxes to, or fees, as you call them, to the water bills. Does this have anything to do with the amount of data centers that are coming into Texas? Because we look at it as citizens, we kind of look at it as, hey, if you started this in 2012 and now suddenly today it's an emergency that we need to get done, why is it suddenly an emergency today? Does it have to do with other things ongoing in the state?
Okay, so it's not an emergency. It has been something that we've identified. It's taken years to get to the place where we actually have a program. So the fact that we are having town meetings and that city council is considering it doesn't mean it's happening now because it's an emergency. That doesn't mean that at all. It's happening now because we finally have enough information to actually share it, to discuss it and talk about it. Data centers doesn't have anything to do with Copper's Cove. We don't have any data centers here. Other cities, I can't speak to them.
Okay. The next question, I went to the business portion of the meeting, and you had a gentleman in here. He was a businessman, and he pointed out that he started off by saying that he did $90,000 worth of business, right, from here and other states. And he pointed out that there were several holes in the information that was being provided, such as Scott didn't have enough numbers, that the studies were not done. I think he might have mentioned case studies. And he pointed out other things such as the data was old. Can you speak to that, please?
I can't because he hasn't come to talk with us about any details.
Okay. well, he was in the, I know he was in the business meeting that you have for all the businesses,
Yeah.
so that's why I asked. I know that Colleen, and like somebody else pointed out, several states, or excuse me, cities have implemented Austin's $10. They have a flat fee in Lampasas, as you've explained to us, which is $7 across the board, whether it's for residents or for businesses. And yet Colleen did it, and they have seen a 488% increase in their, and you did mention, touched on it lightly. We have no cap as citizens, but yet the big box stores get capped. Our school district, which you mentioned, would be roughly, I think you're looking at $5,000. I remember that number floating around, and you also mentioned 20,000. Citizens are now looking at paying this $10 tax that could increase, like Colleen's did, 488%. We're also looking at the county, which is now fixing to pass an 8.6% property tax increase on citizens based on a roughly $250,000 home. That's what, 20-some odd $1,000 a year extra on top of this water bill, on top of, you know, citizens pay insurance, et cetera. On top of the school wants to pass bonds, which we will be, always comes back down to us getting increased. And the school having this water bill, which, as you said, they aren't going to pay it, we are. How are we supposed to manage all this as citizens and keep this town afloat?
I think, you know, you combine a lot of stuff, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on all over the place. In terms of what we're responsible for, I'm not responsible for the school district, but we do partner with school district, and we try to coordinate and we try to work through things. I'm not responsible for the county, neither is your council, but we try to be partners with them and work through things. But each of those entities has a responsibility to do something. Right now, the one responsibility we're talking about, amongst numerous others, is maintaining our streets. And so this is something that we've coordinated with council, we've talked with, they've given us direction to move forward with it. It is not something that we coordinated with the county or the school district on, well, what tax rate are you going to consider? And do we need to delay maintaining our roads for your tax rate? Because they provide very different services than the city. The school district, it's all education of our children, our youth in the city. And they have to do what is best for the services that they provide. So, well, I see it. I see all the numerous stacking of all of these concerns. And city council will have to consider, is now the right time to even consider a street maintenance utility? And they're going to take action on that, whether they say, nope, we're done with it, we're not doing this anymore. Put it off for another 10 years, 5 years, next year, whatever it is. I don't know what direction they're going to give me. I know it's not going to be what we've presented, especially for the non-residential. But here's also what I know, is I know I drive on a road right now. I drive on numerous roads, and I didn't pay for those roads. There were people before me that paid for those roads. And at some point, as a city, we are a forever organization. At some point, we got to maintain our roads. If it's not now, okay, it's not now. But it's going to come at some point.
I just wanted to ask if you could please, I know about the drainage fee, and that was implemented quite a few years back, I believe. It's supposed to be temporary, but of course it's not now. I'm wondering about this new fee for the residents. I'm one as well. So I kind of get double hit being a business owner and
Yes, ma'am.
and a resident here. My question is that, is there going to be some type of a cap or something like that, to where you're not increasing this every year 100% again. And then like 5 years from now, we're paying $50, $60 more on our bill.
Yep.
Today we're saying, oh, $10, not too bad. But what's going to happen in 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay, because I mean that's just not okay, and that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Absolutely.
It continues to go up, right?
Yeah, another good question. And in terms of the principle of can we cap this and not ever change it again? So let's walk through this. Real
I'm sorry,
quick.
I wasn't saying that it would never change.
never
I'm
change it,
just
but
saying
every
that
year
it can't be
yeah.
every year that
Yeah.
we're doubling it and doubling it again.
Yep.
I mean, it just can't. I mean, you know, people have to be able to survive too.
Yeah.
You know.
So every time City Council ever considers a fee change, it is discussed and published in a meeting. Remember I talked about the first and third Tuesdays every month? There's agendas out there that have all of the background information for every discussion point that City Council ever discussed. Fees are one of those, and it comes up every year on a regular basis around our budget time. And so City Council must hold public hearings through that process as well, and receive public comment on whether those changes are acceptable, not acceptable, whatever it might be. But let's talk about the street maintenance utility specifically. It's going to be adopted by an ordinance. Basically, that means it's local law. So we, as voters, elect representatives to the council, and then they take action on things like an ordinance. They adopt it. That ordinance could include language that says this fee is going to be reviewed every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But I cannot make the guarantee, and I cannot promise you or anybody else in this city that it won't change next year. And here's the reason I say that. I'm just being real honest with you. I don't want it to change because I have to pay it also. But the reason I can't make that promise is because the governing body, the City Council, is the one who approved that ordinance. The governing body, the City Council, is the only one who can change that ordinance. And even if they put language in that ordinance that says, hey, we're not going to review this for another 2 years or 3 years, next year, if they chose to say, we need to change that ordinance, they could change that ordinance to where it doesn't include that language anymore. That's why it's so important for you to be engaged with your government. So important. So I can't make that promise. Here's what I can say, based on knowing who City Council is and who's on the council. And I work for the council, okay? I work directly for them. I do not get any sense that they would adopt a fee and then intend, the current council, to increase it every year. I would expect and think that they would adopt this ordinance if they choose to adopt it, and it's going to stay in place for several years while they see the experience of what is being done with it. That would be my expectation. Now,
Mine as well.
yeah,
Mine as well, because it's not about the fact that we don't need the roads fixed. It's about the fact that, you know, people just can't get, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
gorged over the head
Yeah.
here either, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about myself. I'm fairly young, kind of old, but fairly young. All right. But there's a lot of seniors in this community, and they are on fixed incomes, and they cannot take a $50 hit on their water bill when the water bills are high.
Yep.
And they
And-
are very high.
And I agree with that, and I fully appreciate that, because as a governmental entity, while I understand the impression that it's a government and government can just do whatever it wants, government's on a fixed income. It is. It is fixed every single year, and it doesn't change. And for Copper's Cove, it doesn't change that much either. But just like when I go to the store and I have to pay more than I did last year or 5 years ago, the city of Copper's Cove and all the services we provide, we're paying more as well. Yeah. This is just one example, and it's an extreme example, so just remember that. But if we were to build a new wastewater treatment plant, Scott shared this with me, we had a plan. How many years ago did we have that initial plan? 1987, and it was how much back then? $4 million to build a new plant. If we build a new plant now, it's $55 million. Now, that's a long time period, but just a few years ago, the same $55 million plant we could have built would have cost half that. And so we feel it. I know we're the government, and it's easy to point at us that we're the government, but we're feeling it too. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay, we got another question. Where are we at? Back there.
One more, my friend, but, all right, so this had to do with the street mediums. Whose fund did that come from and whose idea was it? Because a lot of the people didn't want it. So if it
Okay.
came from our funds and we didn't want it, couldn't we have done something better with it?
So I'm going to answer that question very briefly because it's not about the street maintenance utility, but it's come up before. The medians started when the bypass was actually constructed, the US 190 bypass. And City Council appointed a committee of business owners and residents to look at Business 190. And their directive was, what are we going to do with Business 190? Because if we just leave it like it is, City Council at that time had the concern that it would become like Veterans Memorial Boulevard in Killeen, to where there wasn't, everything was close to the road. There wasn't a whole lot of work done. And so that committee came up with the idea, let's put a median. That was presented to council. Council said, okay, if that's the committee's idea, and this is all done in public meetings, let's apply for funding. And so the city applied for funding, got a grant for $10 million, which came from state and federal dollars to put in the median. The city did pay, from tax dollars, $1 million for the design of the project. But it was bid out and constructed according to TxDOT standards. That money could not have been used anywhere else except for that $1 million, or if we applied for other projects throughout the city. It could have been used for other projects, sure. But that was the one that was selected by that council and was awarded for funding.
Thank you.
Other questions? We got another one. Oh, right here.
Yes, like the lady was speaking up here, will the council reassess how long will be charged the fees, like in 5 years? Or do you plan to collect the $3.6 million forever?
Okay, so if it stays as proposed, it would be about $3.6 million, $3.3 million. Our streets last forever. And that means we have to maintain those streets forever. I think the recommendation of at least assessing it every so often is appropriate, because as Scott has talked about in previous town halls, that $4.6 million, again, which is a 2022 number, we're in 2025, that number has increased now. 4.6, for 10 years, we get up to that 70 PCI. Once we get to that 70 PCI, the major effort then gets slightly reduced, so that fee technically could be reduced, technically.
And they'll consider the new builds that are coming into town also, the 1,200 houses that they want to develop?
Oh, yeah, they would receive the same charge on that utility bill. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. We had another question back here, John.
Can I just respectfully request no more medians?
No more medians. You can, and you have 3 council members who just heard you. And I'll be really, go ahead.
Not only is it cost more than, it's not necessary, but actually trying to pull out and not having a turn lane, I've actually had some safety issues where I don't have the ability. If I try to turn out from, say, home base, no problem, because I got a place that I can pull out, wait till it's safe, and then go. Places where there's a median, I don't have that safety buffer.
Well, if there's a median, that means you have to turn right. And just as a fact, the number of accidents per capita along that stretch of roadway has reduced. Now, that's primarily attributed to the median, but that hopefully that's also because we've become better drivers. I don't know, but in all transparency, I appreciate your comment. The next stages of Business 190 that don't have a median, there are plans to put a median in those areas, okay? So again, all transparency, there is a plan for that. And those projects have been submitted for funding. Now, those projects are not funded in any time, any reasonable time, which is 3 years based on the state plan. And we won't know if they get funding next year or the year after until next year or the year after when we find out about it. So I wanted to be very transparent with you and tell you that there are plans to do that. But I think City Council, as we've gone through this whole town hall discussion and they're really listening to the comments about the street maintenance utility, they're hearing what you said also, and all the rest of you who are making comments about it. Okay, we got a question back here.
Okay, I have a comment to make. I agree with the gentleman down here who's talking about the median. I
Received.
attended every meeting that was held by the city on that median. Being a retired federal safety accident investigator, the most dangerous turn you can make in an automobile is a left-hand turn. With the median now, the turnarounds are all left-hand turns, okay? One thing I asked the police chief and the fire chief at the time was, if you have an emergency and the fire truck comes out headed west, or correction, east, on 190, and the fire is on the north side of that median, can you jump the curb? Oh no, it tears up equipment. We've got streets in these neighborhoods here that are 30 miles an hour, and we can't put a speed bump in. So when you address the city putting a median in west of where it is right now, McDonald's, further on down, going west, double think what that median is going to cost you. And as a family member of a business that closed down, was in this city for 55 years. Most of you will know it, Cove Feed and Seed. Okay, when my father-in-law put that feed store in, you could park head to tail, 3 deep in front of his store. And look at it now. And that is just one business. So city, streets, think about it. And we in here are the ones that can affect the state to increase the funding for the vets, getting reimbursed for the 100% exemption, okay? We're stuck with it. But it's the state that has the excess funding that could reimburse the city of Coppers Cove, and we would all benefit from that.
Comment received, and I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
What the gentleman was talking about, okay, let's say I want to go to Discount Tire. I'm going this way. You cannot turn right like he was mentioning, right? You have to take left. So you have to stay there and wait till all the traffic come from here. And then finally, maybe you can go in and go to Discount Tire and turn around again. And then whatever happened to the bicycle trail that got put in? Who's on this? You're all supposed to be on a bicycle and stuff. Nobody's on this bicycle trail that you all built out there and stuff. We got $10 million for that project. That's a lot of money. And nobody's happy with that project. I'll tell you the truth, I'm not happy with it because like the gentleman said, when you want to go to a store, you got to wait there and you cannot turn right. You have to wait there till the other traffic stops or finish or whatever, and then you can go, turn a left, go to Discount Tire, for an example, to mention one business. Now you said you want to close that up too? What are we going to do? It's going to be even worse. One other question. The lady was mentioning about the drainage fee. I came to the city years ago and mentioned to you guys, I've been here since 1975, 50 years. When they came up with the drainage fee, they said for 10 years we pay $7 for 10 years. That was 1980s. And I came to you all and brought it up, if you remember. However, now it's past more than 10 years, and now it's $9 drainage fee. What happened? What's going to happen with those $10, like she said? Everything goes up, and we don't even know what's going to happen. Is there any other solution to this project besides charging the homeowners on the water bill extra $10? A lot of people on fixed income. $10 maybe don't mean nothing to some people. To some of them, $10 can mean a gallon of milk, a loaf of bread, or whatever else that they maybe have to buy. Not everybody's fortunate. Well, let's do $10 more and we get better streets. Some people cannot afford it, unfortunately.
Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome. I'm sorry. I
ter-
didn't want to tell you all this, but I had to.
in terms of the median, you're right. They're not perfect, and I fully admit that. But your comments are definitely received on that. Drainage fee. I don't think you were asking if I was here in the 1980s. I mean, but you and I have talked about it since I've been here. But yeah, I wasn't here when city council said, hey, it's only temporary, and then city council made the decision to make it permanent. But just like our streets, our drainage facilities that we have, they're here permanently, and we have to maintain them. And it's actually a federal law that we have to maintain them and improve them. So, yes, ma'am. Okay, other questions about street maintenance utility? Let's go over here. This gentleman hasn't been able to ask a question. We'll get to you ladies, okay? Well, no, we need the mic because we're recording it.
Oh, recording.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say that my questions have been answered, but $10 a month is just too much for me.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. Let's go with this lady.
I just have one more. So you were talking about the felt, and I understand that. I think we all understand that, yes, we don't want to get the fee, but when it's completed and we have smooth roads, we're going to appreciate it. But when you were talking about the felled amount of streets in the red line, so what determines what's felled? And is it a percentage of the road or just a pothole?
Yeah, and the percentage is based on the types of defects that you actually have in a roadway. Ryan had talked about alligator cracking, where you have cracks that are that way and also this way. Kind of looks like alligator skin. That's one type of defect. Another type is a longitudinal crack, and that's what we address with a crack sealing application to, again, seal that section to keep that water intrusion out. However, once you get to that alligator cracking stage, if you're not addressing that properly, and quite frankly, that's taking that section up, taking up part of that failed base, because that's what you have at that point. If you don't take that up, that turns into basically potholes, huge areas of asphalt missing. You cannot simply, like an alligator cracking, you cannot simply just crack seal that or slurry seal it. Why? Because it's already failed. So with that, the engineer that we hired, he was basically a professional engineer. His certification or doctorate is basically in pavement design and management. His name was on that slide, Dr. Hossein. He went through and he categorized each type of defect in each segment of each street in the town at that point. And based on a pavement condition assessment, and there's specifications out there that they follow, they come up with that ranking. At the end of that study, and that's again attached, if you follow that QR link to the pavement condition assessment, for every street in town at that time, back in 2022, recall Ryan mentioned we've added about 15. There is a grade for all intents and purposes of what that segment is. And that basically comes down to how good is that street, how poor is that street, is it new, is it not, where's it at on that spectrum? Does that make sense?
Okay, I want to know how feasible would it be to cut it in half?
City council says cut it in half. It's that feasible. Remember the revenue though? It doesn't generate the amount of revenue needed to improve the streets up to that 70 PCI. I mean, it's that feasible. Okay, other questions about street? Oh, we got a lady over here.
Is there any way we can get some kind of state grant or a federal grant to help us out with this?
A good question. we can get grants, and we apply for them all the time. We've got a number of projects that have been done through grants. All of the grants through our MPO, which is a Metropolitan Planning Organization, we are a member of it. We have to be. We receive a lot of funding through them, but it's all, again, for state roadways or roadways connected to state roadways. So let me give you an example of the latter. Ashley Drive, it's over there on the north side of town, super wide road. It does not connect to FM 116, but there's a whole lot of homes being built on the east side there. And so we received a grant to connect Ashley Drive to FM 116. So that's not a state roadway, but it connects to a state roadway. We also receive grants for non-vehicular travel, pedestrian paths, trails, and that stuff. We have applied for a transportation alternative grant, and that transportation alternative grant, I'm hopeful that we'll get 2 projects funded. That grant will fund sidewalk connections to schools. Got a lot of children that walk to schools, and there are a lot of areas that don't have sidewalks. And so that grant will help us fund a couple of projects connecting to 2 schools with that grant. We have also received and applied for a number of other grants in cooperation with our Economic Development Corporation or with other entities such as BNSF. We've received a grant to study our railroad crossings because some of them are bad. 17th Street, Grimes Crossing, I mean, some really bad railroad crossings. But BNSF actually helped pay for a part of the match for the grant we received. And we're really close to getting that study started so that we can decide which crossings need to be improved for safety. And if we can remove some of those crossings and do an off-grade or elevated or below the railroad tracks crossing so that we can eliminate that conflict. And with the Economic Development Corporation, we've applied for different roadway projects as well and received funding. The EDC has actually funded a roadway, which is the Constitution Drive. That roadway was completely removed, and it is one of our, or is it the only concrete road in town? One of them? Well, it's the only full section. Yeah, it's the only full section of a concrete roadway. And so, yeah, we look at different types of roadway construction methods also. It could have been asphalt, like the majority of our roads, but concrete was the most cost efficient because of a number of other issues in there. So we've applied. There are no grants out there to maintain city-owned roads. Not that we know of. But if you find one, send it to me because we'll apply for it. Okay? All right, we had a question up here. Yes, ma'am.
How many utility bills are being sent out monthly currently?
Ranges between approximately 14,500 and 15,000.
Okay, so roughly that would give you $1,700,000
At what?
at $10 a residence.
Be about 1.4, 1.5 million, based on $10.
So basically, the businesses would have to pick up the rest.
That's what the analysis currently shows, yes.
This is my first meeting. And
Welcome.
Wow. You talk about the water that affects the streets. You just finished building Highway 190, making it look supposedly better. But you have all of these water spots that have been there forever. It has not rained in forever, but you're not addressing those streets that have the water there. I'm not done though.
I'm waiting.
Speaking of water, I've been here since 1988. There is a leak between Home Base and Sonic that has been there forever. It has been fixed for maybe a few weeks. It is affecting the roadway. And I have two questions on that. Why it hasn't been fixed? And because it hasn't been fixed, who's paying for that water?
Okay, let me start off with your last question first. The water you see between home base and Sonic is actually groundwater that percolates out coming down off that hill. We have analyzed that year after year after year based on customer citizen concern. There is no chlorine in that water. We have no pipes that convey towards that direction. It's not city water. It is groundwater. Similar on US Business 190, you see the seeps, particularly around the medians, I believe at about 5 or 6 locations. That started occurring shortly after completion of that project, and it continues until now. That is not city water leaking into it. That is basically groundwater that's percolating up. That's not the city's road to maintain. Those concerns have been repeatedly brought to TxDOT's attention, and ultimately, you're exactly right. That water percolating from underneath that roadway will destroy those sections of roadway. It will need to be repaired. But you're exactly right. But both of the issues or the instances you bring up, that's a result of groundwater that we have in the city of Copperas Cove. Those are not the only areas. Another example would be out on Summers Road outside of the CCISD bus barn. That is something we have to chase and repair forever until we come up with a more comprehensive repair in terms of potentially channeling that groundwater away. But when you work with groundwater, it's like working with a shadow. You just keep trying to capture it, and it keeps coming from a different direction. So hopefully that addresses your question.
Not quite. But why was it fixed for a few weeks, but it's still not fixed?
And do you recall specifically when that time frame was?
No, I don't.
Had
But
it not,
it has
had it
been
not
in this last
rained
year.
for about 6 months?
It has been this last year.
Okay. The only time I've seen it dry up in my experience is when we've been back into our drought for about a period of 4 to 6 months, and that water table drops, and the groundwater doesn't percolate up at that point. That's the only explanation I would have as to why that actually stopped. But you can see it now. We've had some rains here and there. Supposed to get more rain tomorrow. It's still blowing and going, and it'll continue to do that until it dries up enough to drop that water table.
So is there anything that's going to be done about it so it does not continue to erode parts of that side of the street?
And that is TxDOT's responsibility to address that, because again, that's their roadway, and they're responsible for that repair and maintenance of that roadway, not the city.
Other questions on the street maintenance? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hale's getting his steps tonight.
I'm sorry. This is a devilment question. When are they going to take back that curbing down by Ledgers? Take it back and clear that out? Or am I going to have to take my jackhammer down there some night and do it myself?
I think there's a common process. We're going to answer the last question first. Please don't do that. I don't want to have to send somebody out there to arrest you. That won't be good. So yeah, in terms of the curbing downtown, that was what did we call it, Scott? Legacy projects. That was what Scott and I call legacy projects, which means those are projects that were done or started before we had any input or responsibility over those. So that's a really poor answer, but they're not going to change unless TxDOT tells us to, or we go through a major improvement downtown, and that major improvement downtown, based on discussions that I've had with the Economic Development Corporation and even some downtown business owners, not many, so don't throw anything at me yet, to where some of those streets might be closed to vehicular traffic, to make it more pedestrian friendly and really open it up to businesses to provide services even outside of their building. Now, that's way down the road, but very directly, those curbs aren't going to change anytime soon. No, ma'am. Yep, I'm sorry. Okay, I think we had a question up here.
Could you pull up the slide that's the transportation, evaluation, and utility fee study report, please?
Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay, which?
Transportation, utility, looks like that.
Oh, the trips.
Yes. One of the businessmen during the business meeting that you had for the commercial businesses pointed out that the library down there is at 168. And he said, based on how you guys are figuring this by footage and everything, we don't have 168 parking lots, and that data is incorrect. If the data is incorrect on that, how much of the other data is incorrect, and when can we expect it to be updated and fixed?
And I need to disagree that the data is incorrect, that the assessment is incorrect. The assessment was completed by a crew that knows what they're doing. It's based on national studies. The 168 single-family equivalent trips for one library, I believe, is solely focused on the city's library based on the square footage and the trip generation per 100 or 1,000 square feet. So if you would like to see the actual calculations for that site, we can provide that to you. You can reach out and send me an email. I can provide you that data. Once again, I disagree with that person's assessment. This is an incorrect assessment. I've gone through this and many studies exactly like this for not only City of Copperas Cove, but for Killeen and various other cities around Texas. I believe it to be accurate.
Okay, well, I do know that the gentleman disagreed on the basis 168, and you mentioned that you did a study like on average, that you said it was a national study, and you're applying it to this town between I think the peak hours were between 12 and 2?
It's 4 and 6 p.m.
4 and
4 and
6.
6 p.m.
Okay, I remember 12 and 2 for some reason. Okay.
And if I can just add to that, I think the premise that you said is there's not 168 parking spots. Not everybody shows up at the library at one time.
Right.
It's throughout the day.
Right.
And it's also based on whatever that national average is, based on the number of hours that a library may be open. And I can tell you, our library is not open as long as a lot of other libraries. But as a city, we are also kind of in the middle. We are a mid-sized city. So there's a lot of cities much smaller than us. There's a lot of cities a lot larger than us. So if it's an average, it's actually pretty close to what's necessary. But in terms of that, that's the library, 168. Based on everything that's up there, if that means 168 is being attributed to the library, that means that 168 is not being attributed to other ones. So the calculation of the fee actually benefits from that being 168 for the library.
Okay. What did the risk analysis say about how many businesses we could expect to lose on the basis of these charges being implemented?
Yeah, and we haven't done a risk analysis. There's so many factors that go into whether this fee is going to cause businesses to close. Those factors include, how well that business is running, the services that are applicable to the community or not applicable to the community anymore. That question was also asked when the bypass went in. It was also asked when the median went in. And that assessment, if we were to do it, one, that's going to be a pretty hefty endeavor which comes with a price tag as well. And I mean, if that's something city council directs us to work on, that's something we can do.
Considering that I know I heard two businesses during the business meeting, and others expressed that they were giving thought to leaving, because as one he said it very well, he said, was it the man or the woman, I forget, said that they would have to pass the cost off onto us, right? So he says at some point, they aren't going to be able, citizens aren't going to be able to afford the cost. He says, and then we will have to make a decision where we go, if we close, if we sell, if we just simply go to another city. If we have no risk analysis, and they expressed in there, from the medians, I mean, they grumbled about that too, and said, hey, we've lost as much as 40% of our business income, and we've done no risk analysis, and they're already saying, hey, we're considering this, maybe we need to take a step back. I mean, what did city council say with, are they not concerned about that? Because we are.
And I would have to say, from just my individual discussions, yeah, they're concerned about it. And October 7th, I think the residents and the business owners will see and hear what council's concerns are about that. It has not fallen on deaf ears, I can tell you that. They've heard. And they are taking it seriously. Yeah. Okay. Other questions about, Oh, good. You got to use the microphone.
I did have a question. I just don't know if it's pertinent to this. On our residential streets, we have the poles with the street lights. I don't know if is that part of the street maintenance, when the lights come on at sunset or whatever?
No, it is not. In fact, most of the street lights in Copperas Cove are owned by Encore, and we pay a fee for those streets to be maintained and have electricity to them. There's another portion in town that's actually owned by Hamilton Electric Co-op as well, but that's in their boundaries. So no, it wouldn't be part of this fee.
So it wouldn't be part of this fee.
No, ma'am. Okay, I think we had a question over here. You're doing awesome, Councilmember John Hill.
Hi, I was just wondering, it's not a question, well, it is. So all these numbers are just a national assumption, whatever it might be or could be, and the real decisions and the assessments of maybe exempting people or stuff, the details are not even done yet. It's just an example for the tender. It could be less, or it could be more, or it could be different exemptions, etc. So it's not cut in stone yet.
Yes, ma'am. It has not been approved by City Council. And when City Council said, let's consider $10 for residential and cap non-residential at $2,500, I recommended, and council, I think, understood, you should set it at whatever you think the highest that you would actually consider adopting, but don't adopt anything higher than that. It's very, very much like our property tax rate. By state law, whatever city council actually proposes before they adopt the tax rate, they can't propose something and then adopt something higher. And so I think city council has taken that same effort in terms of all of the exemption stuff. City council did give us direction saying originally no exemptions. And so now city council has heard in the town halls your thoughts, your opinions, your comments, your questions. And so that will come back up. As Scott said, exemptions will be one of those discussion points again on October 7th. Okay, other questions about street maintenance utility? I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate the engagement, again, the civility of the discussion. Remember, October 7th is when City Council will actually have a discussion together. October 21st is the date that they may consider adopting a street maintenance utility. We have two more town halls, tomorrow night for commercial, Saturday for residential. Thank you for your engagement. Be safe as you leave, and bless you. Thank you.